Hey y'all, it's yet another great day to get better. Becoming Undone is a podcast for those who dare bravely, risk mightily, and grow relentlessly. Join me, Toby Brooks, as I invite a new guest each week to examine how high achievers can transform from falling apart to falling into place. If you've ever spent any time at all in the incredibly competitive world of travel sports, you know that it's not difficult to become so singular in purpose that every spare moment, every spare dollar, and every spare opportunity and then some can be consumed with the pursuit of being seen, hopefully capturing the attention of a recruiter or a college coach. And sometimes, parents, coaches, and even the athletes themselves can feel the pressure to become great in this one aspect of life at the expense of all others. That can leave anyone, especially those with an artistic spirit, feeling unfulfilled and unnecessarily painted into a performance corner. For Bridgette Borzillo, her love of sport actually came second in life, behind a passion for dance. Choreographing for the first time at the age of 6, she finally took her first formal dance class freshman year at Fallbrook High School in San Diego, California. Meanwhile, the talented athlete/artist also competed as a 3-sport athlete in soccer, softball, and field hockey. Ultimately, sport won out, at least for a while. The talented outfielder made her way to San Diego State and later Arizona State as a D1 softball player. But her love for dance continued to grow. After graduation, she went all in on dance, performing as a member of a number of different production companies. Ultimately, she took the plunge to form her own company, founding CaZo Dance in 2014. Working tirelessly to create and share her art and her lifelong love of dance, she, like so many, felt the effects of the global pandemic with full force when the world seemed to close for business, most notably the performing arts. Hear Bridgette share her story of art and sport peacefully coexisting in her world, facing down the fear of entrepreneurship and overcoming the lost season of the pandemic in episode 25, Dance. This week, we're really fortunate to have a guest with a diverse background, and so far, we've kind of done either or. I've done more athletes than anything, and we've talked about kind of that transition from athletics to the rest of our lives and how that's hard for a lot of people. We've also looked at artists, and they really go through very similar grieving processes as we leave that season of life. But Bridgette Borzillo is joining us today. She has a great history as a student athlete, competing in college, growing up, but also has a creative streak and is the founder and artistic director of CaZo Dance Theater. So Bridgette, it's great to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You were a softball player, so I'll lob a softball right in there. Who did Bridgette want to be when she grew up?
So the first job that I wanted to have that I can remember, I think I was in like 4th or 5th grade. I always said I wanted to be a physical therapist. And I don't know if I really understood what that was when I was growing up. But so, yeah, I always wanted to like do something with athletes. So that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. But then I went into high school and saw a Britney Spears concert on TV. And I went, that's what I have to do. I have to create or be a part of stuff like that. And so from, I think it was about my freshman year in high school, I was like, I'm going to play softball in college. I'm going to major in dance and have my own dance company and do all of that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Very rare for people to have that kind of clarity, and especially that kind of landmark moment where you could put your finger on kind of the birth, the genesis of that dream. So cool. So you grew up as a multi-sport athlete. Start at the beginning, wherever that was for you.
I started in t-ball when I was about 5, and my parents to this day still laugh at me because I was dancing in the outfield, picking daisies, and that's all I did was pick daisies and dance in the outfield while I was, because nobody hits a ball in the outfield when you're 5 years old. So, and then I went into softball at 6, even though I think you were supposed to be like 8, but since I had t-ball, they allowed me to go in. So I started playing ball at 6. Then I started playing soccer first. And at the time, so I have really bad asthma, chronic asthma. allergy and exercise induced. Yay. So I was on a lot of medications that made me a little bit heavier. So I had some weight issues. So they put me in the goal because, I couldn't run or anything. So I was a goalie from the time I started soccer all the way through high school. And then I started playing basketball, I believe in third or fourth grade, played that all the way through junior high. And then I started field hockey in high school. So in high school, I played softball, soccer, and field hockey. I was on the varsity team in my high school for softball and soccer as a freshman, but not field hockey. Yeah. And then that's the funny story is that my junior year, I told my dad, I had never done cheerleading before in my life. And I told my dad, I said, if I don't make varsity field hockey my junior year, I'm going to quit field hockey and soccer and try out for cheerleading and just concentrate on softball because that's what I was going to do in college. So I was like, I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't make varsity field hockey. So I did, varsity soccer and did the rest. And then I tried out for cheerleading and my dad was like, okay, yeah, just go ahead and do that. But he did not think I was going to make it. So I made varsity cheerleading my senior year in high school with never doing cheerleading before.
That's cool. I've long been a proponent of multi-sport athletes, and softball is one of the worst, where if you don't start and specialize early and you're doing the travel ball and the showcase tournaments and things like that, especially in this day and age, it's really hard to land a scholarship. Do you feel like that multi-sport experience helped shape you into an athlete that would be better prepared for dance?
Yes, I agree with that. I also agree that I think it's so important for kids to get different sports as well, because as a softball player, it's such a mental sport that I feel like you need to have that mental break in order to be clear to start a season again. Because I always felt like I was better at softball when I had a break because I wasn't in my head. But yeah, I think that you learn so many different skills in each sport, not only like about team sports and like different things that you learn in those or like stamina or anything like that versus other sports. But I do think that it transferred, the athletic ability did transfer into the dance. If I didn't have the athletic ability, I couldn't do dance, in my opinion, because I basically faked it for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
Because people just thought I could, I faked it. So they're like, oh, the technique. So they didn't really break things down for me a lot. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So you end up at San Diego State University, or D1 athlete. How was that recruiting process? And at that stage, were your dreams still centered on dance, or was softball part of that dream? Or was it just something that you were doing to pave the way for that future as an artist?
So dance had become the dream overall. So with softball, it was like I wanted to play and be really good at it and go to the World Series and do all of those things. However, at San Diego State, so I was a recruited walk-on at San Diego State. So let's go back a little bit, because my dad, when he found out that I wanted to major in dance and I wanted to do Division I softball, we had like, I don't think they have these anymore, but they had a college catalog. It was a book, right? That you shuffled through and you saw all the majors in each school.
Yes.
So we picked out every single school that had a D1 softball program with a dance program. And so we literally sent letters to every single one of them. I think I was a sophomore in high school when we started that process. And then we sent letters out to everybody, and we sent videos as well to like the big ones. And then also sent out like, hey, I'm going to be at this tournament, because I did travel ball too, come and see me and all of that. So my recruiting process was actually really weird, because I felt like, they wanted me, they loved me and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden things would happen where I would get in my head. And so it was like they stopped playing me or something. So like, especially when I was on a team called the Choppers, I hurt my shoulder on their team, and they were just such a negative influence. Like they just weren't fun to be around. And whenever we'd go to tournaments and I would tell them, I have this this person watching me, they would sit me. So it was like this really weird battle with my coaches. And I felt like I wasn't like having an attitude or anything. It was just like I was hurt or like different things that were going on. So I felt like I was getting shafted a lot when I was in my heightened recruiting process. I was almost offered a full ride scholarship to Fordham University, which I was really excited about. However, my SATs weren't high enough. So, because I'm not a test taker. So that was hard. But with San Diego State, I literally went to ASU I was basically committed to go to ASU just for school, and I was going to walk on. Because of that Choppers team, it put a bad taste in my mouth for softball. So I actually was thinking about quitting softball and just going to school for dance and doing all of that. So I was basically enrolled in ASU, and after the orientation on the way home, we got a call from San Diego State saying, we're offering you a recruited walk-on position at our school. So you don't have to try out. You're automatically on the team, but we just don't have money for you. So that's why I started there instead. But I really wanted to go to ASU.
Right. So you end up at San Diego State, and this is where you really start to get a taste for true ballet and training as a dancer. You're not just a little girl spinning out in the daisies. You are introduced to the grind and the athleticism and the power of dance.
Right.
What was that process like for you? Was it exciting, or was it terrifying, or was it a little both?
It wasn't terrifying. I held my own. Like I said, however, my teachers thought that I had like a solid background, but I didn't. So they didn't really break things down. But I only took like one dance class a semester when I was there because of the schedule for softball. And, I couldn't put it into the schedule. So I think I took ballet one semester. I took a modern class, which I was like, I hate modern dance because of that class. It was all like making noises and different things. And I was like, this is awful. And then I think I took a modalities class, which was like Pilates and yoga and like Feldenkrais and all these different types of genre. And I think I took another ballet class. So it wasn't that much that I took there. The majority of my training happened when I transferred to ASU. So it wasn't scary or anything. It was just, but I was tired all the time because we'd have all the conditioning in the morning, and then we'd have my dance classes, and then I'd go straight to practice and then study hall. And plus I would stay after practice a lot of the times to do extra hitting and stuff so that I could get into the lineup and, improve and all of that. So,
right. So eventually you do end up transferring to ASU, your first choice. What precipitated that decision?
There was a lot of things that went down that year. One was I got mono. So I was at like the peak. It was very disappointing because I had trained all summer with our speed coach, Coach O, who I love. Shout out to him. And I worked with him all summer on speed training drills. And so I got really fast, like really fast. And everything was going great. I was maxing out at like the best weight that I could and all of that. And then I got mono. And so I literally couldn't do anything for like 3 months. And having mono with asthma is not fun. And literally you just sleep for like 20 hours a day. I couldn't do any of my finals. I couldn't do any of that. And then right after that, there was like huge fires in San Diego. Again, not great for asthma. I think the school was like shut down for like 2 weeks, and like it was crazy. So and then I hurt my shoulder again, and it was just like a snowball effect, very emotional year for me. And my coach basically was like, we're taking your scholarship away. I had a scholarship. I had tuition paid for my second year. And my coach was like, we're taking your scholarship away because we think the freshmen are better than you coming in.
In 2 seasons at San Diego State, Bridgette had gone from walk-on to scholarship athlete. However, after battling through illness, injury, and seemingly one setback after another, on the field and off, she felt the sting of having that hard-earned reward taken back. She decided then and there that was the sign she needed, that it was time to go elsewhere. And the lure of Tempe, Arizona, and Arizona State University, originally her first choice in pursuing her goals in dance, won out. It was a decision that would change the course of her life forever.
I transferred to ASU and walked on. I think there was about 50 people who auditioned. I tried out for the team, and myself, and then my previous teammate at San Diego State, Bianca Cruz, she also made the team. But unfortunately for her, our coach did not give her her release until basically the day that we started the season. So Bianca actually came on the team the following year. So it's kind of interesting because we played 3 years together, but we started together, which was kind of fun. So
yeah. So you find yourself in Tempe. You're at ASU. I'm an Arizona Wildcat, so we'll just agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But you're there, and I can't help but wonder, because softball is certainly performance oriented, dance certainly aesthetically oriented, and the pressures are different in those two fields. And it's not to say that a young female athlete doesn't feel pressure to look a certain way, but you're kind of operating in these parallel universes, and those pressures collide at times. What was that like, navigating that junior and that senior year with those kind of tensions between how you looked and how you performed?
Right. I feel like dance is also performance based. You do have to perform as well, not only just look good, you have to also perform. So, and you look at yourself in the mirror 24/7. So you're constantly nitpicking at your body. However, being an athlete helps because you're constantly working out. It's good and it's also bad, because at ASU we had conditioning 6 days a week from like 7 to about 8. And then I would literally go to dance classes, like dance technique classes, from like 9:40 till 1:10, and then go straight to practice. So for me, it was more, I had to save my energy for softball because that's what was paying for school. And so that was difficult because I felt like I didn't get all the training that I needed to in the dance side, because I wasn't, especially with the traveling schedule, I missed a lot of class for that. But so that was, for me, it was just more physically draining than anything. But I was loving it because I was doing both things that I love. And I had almost all of my general education credits out of the way. So like literally it was like all dance classes. So it was great.
Yeah.
But it's hard because as an athlete, you're bulkier. So you look a lot bigger than everyone else. So there's a lot of this weird, like psychological, like body that starts to happen. And so you're just like, I'm so much bigger than everyone else. And then everybody else thinks of you that way because you're an athlete. I don't know if that makes any sense, but.
So as you're closing in on graduation, your dreams of being in dance, they're forming. And so it's a big difference between being in a company and running a company. At that point in your life, were you dreaming of entrepreneurship in this space, or were you just looking at the artistry side of things?
No, I wanted to have my own professional dance company. I know I wanted that. There is a little story that I'll tell you that kind of crushed my dreams. So I did do 5 years in college. So after my 4th year with softball, I had one more year left. I took 43 credits that year. 43. Yeah. 21 one semester and 22 the next, so that I can graduate. So I thought that was a breeze because I didn't have softball, which I think a lot of people would go, what? But so during that year, my friends and I decided to go to the So You Think You Can Dance audition in LA. And we went there. And at the time, that was when they had people on, I think it was for season 2 or 3. And at that time, they would choose people to make fun of them, right? So I'm just letting you know. And we went there and we auditioned, and myself and another guy, another one of our friends, made it through to the round that you actually see on TV. And so I did my solo for the judges, and the person that was the judge was Wade Robson. He was like the special judge. And I don't know if you know anything about Wade Robson, but he was the choreographer and creator of all of the NSYNC performances and Britney Spears, which is what I was inspired to do. Like he was like why I wanted to do dance. So I was so excited that he was there. And I choreographed the routine that I performed. And after I was done, all of the judges were like, so what do you do in school? And I'm like, I'm a dance major. And they all looked at me like, I should not be a dance major. Oh. And Wade Robson was like, did you choreograph that? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, you've got a lot of issues in this and timing, and like just literally like ripped it apart. I was destroyed after that.
Ouch. The excitement of getting to compete and be judged by a choreographer who had actually inspired her to pursue dance to begin with was quickly, painfully, and publicly dashed by the man himself, who pretty much told Bridgette not to quit her day job. Except dance was her day job. It had been the thing she'd studied and performed and pursued, first informally in T-ball outfields, but eventually as a dance major at a major university. It was humbling and crushing all at the same time. And while she can laugh about it now, it shook her confidence. But as we've learned so many times before on Becoming Undone, setbacks can be setups for success if we're willing to take the lessons from the losses and learn from them.
When I graduated school, I know I wanted to go into dance and different things, but I didn't have the confidence that I once had because of all the negative feedback that I got from my work. So that was hard. So originally after college, I was going to go into massage therapy. So that's part of the physical therapy side. And I was thinking of going into like cruise lines and dancing in cruise lines, or moving to Seattle because they have a really big dance scene up there, and doing massage to make enough money, but still have time to like do my dance stuff. So that's where that goes into, you know, what you're talking about. What was I planning on? I was always planning on having my own like performance dance company. And so I didn't know about a studio yet at that point, I don't think.
So no doubt your confidence had to have been shaken. But I know the end of the story. I've read your bio. Somehow you went from that seminal moment to having a company of your own and finding your voice as an artist. What did you tell yourself to keep going in that time?
It's a lot of growing up because you have to kind of put your ego to the side and just be like, I know I can do this, you know, and do it. I still struggle with our dance community with, you know, feeling like I fit in because they're all abstract artists. And I feel like I'm more of an entertainer. I like to entertain the audience with my shows instead of like having them guess on what like I'm trying to say. Like I want them to know exactly what I'm trying to say. So I struggle a little bit here because it's not like that. But yeah, for me, it took a while to build that confidence. I joined Scorpius Dance Theater in 2010, and there's another tenacity for you because I auditioned 3 times to get into that company. I didn't give up. I trained really hard. I'm one of those people, if I make a plan, I will do my best to, you know, make it happen. So I auditioned for them. And then, so I was in their company from 2010 to 2017, but through that, they had some showcases where we could choreograph pieces and audition them and stuff. And so I got a few pieces into those showcases. And that's where my fire came back because I got some feedback from people like, wow, that was really cool. You know, just doing what I wanted to do and just said, screw it. You know, instead of trying to be fitted in a box and trying to fit into that box, I just said, screw it. I'm going to have my own voice. And, you know, if you don't like it, you don't like it. I feel like that's really hard to do sometimes, you know, because a lot of people want to fit into the grain. I don't.
And that's that artsy streak coming out of you, no doubt about it.
Right.
So you find yourself as a performer. You're probably learning some of the inner workings and how to operate a company of your own, although you're not there yet. When did you decide to make the jump, the transition, and launch out into your own?
I basically felt like I wasn't being utilized in the dance company that I was in. And one of my friends encouraged me, to just make the leap and create CaZo. So I really owe it to her. Her name's Lindsay Larson, if you're listening. And she was really like, because she knows my work and she worked with me in the past. And she was actually in one of the pieces that I was telling you about in Scorpius' show. So I was just like, let's just do it. And I took a lot of dancers that I danced with in Scorpius that I wanted to work with and some other people. And we just created the first show, and it was about my grandparents. My grandmother had just passed away. So it was kind of like my way of mourning her in a way. But I just went for the leap. So that was in 2014 when we started the professional company, and we struggled.
I think that leads well into my next question. So you faced fear at every step, whether that's launching out and going to San Diego State and pursuing a dream there, transferring midstream to ASU, pursuing dance after your athletic career was over. How do you think fear played a role in your growth as a human?
That's hard. That's a hard question. I don't fear a lot of things. I think that comes from being a softball player, because softball is a game of failure. You just get used to failing all the time. I've never failed at anything more than dance, to be honest. I have a really good support system in my family and in my husband. So failing for me is like, I already feel like I have a safety net if I do. I don't know if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. It's been said that fear has killed more dreams than lack of talent, lack of resources, or lack of will ever have. The thing is, when we have a group of friends and family who speak life into us and provide that safety net beneath our feet, those terrifying thoughts and worrisome doubts suddenly look so much less threatening. And they help us stare that fear in its lying eyes. And it allows us to head full speed ahead, faced with the very real concerns about how hard it might be to start a dance company from scratch. Bridgette relied upon the confidence she'd honed on the softball field and the support of her husband and others to stop dreaming and start building. So you're moving full steam ahead in this dance career. You've left competitive team sport behind. Was that central to your identity, or were you so wrapped up in what was ahead you weren't lamenting what was behind?
I think I identify myself as an athlete for a very long time. And then it was hard. I did go through a big depression state after softball was over. But I was, and after college was over, because I was like, I can make my own decisions on what I do. Like, it was just very weird, because everybody always told me when I needed to be there for rehearsals and practice and class. And so that was a really weird transition. I've moved on. My last year playing softball was 2006. So I moved on. I feel like I move on pretty well, because I always had my blinders on and being, the other goal of the dancer side. So I miss softball. Like, it's hard for me to kind of go back to ASU and watch a game, because I love the game and I like playing it. I don't necessarily like watching it. It pains me a little bit. Like, I did have a really great time, but yeah, I feel like I run my dance company like a softball team. So it's still a part of me, if that makes sense. I'm like a coach and not like a director.
It absolutely does. So what do your days look like today?
Well, like today I taught in the morning. I taught a class in the morning, then drove to a different high school, taught a class. Now I'm talking to you. Now I'm going back to the studio and teaching 2 more classes. So typically a regular day for me, like a regular week, let's say, is like teaching for about 6 hours or having rehearsals 6 or 7 hours in a day, about 6 days a week. For me, I'm always going. I always been that way, especially being a tri-sport athlete and being involved in youth groups and different clubs. I've always been that regimented. I'm like never home. I just have to keep going. I opened the studio in 2020 during the pandemic. Crazy, because I'm like, hey, if I can make it work during a pandemic, I can make it work anytime. That was very hard because there was so much unknown with the pandemic. But literally, since we opened the studio, I produce 4 full-length shows a year, which is very hard. 2 for the professional company and 2 for the studio. So it's like nonstop promoting and doing calendar submissions and talking to press. And so it's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's good. It keeps me busy, keeps me out of trouble. And
for sure. So hindsight's always 2020. If you had a chance to speak words of wisdom into the younger Bridgette, that 10, 12-year-old who's just well, that's not true. You played t-ball at 4 or 5.
Yeah.
If you had a chance to go back in time and deliver that sage advice, what would you tell her?
Oh, that's a good question. What would I tell my little self? To not be insecure and let your brain get in the way, and to ask my parents for dance lessons earlier, because I always kept my mouth shut about it until I went to high school. But when I was growing up, I had a lot of self-esteem issues because of my asthma. So here's another little story for you. I had such a severe asthma attack when I was about in 5th grade that I stopped breathing and almost died. And so when that happened, they put me on like 4 or 5 different asthma inhalers. They put me on Singulair. They put me on prednisone for a year, which you're not supposed to do, I find out. And then that year I was like severely sick all the time, because if you don't know, people that are listening, steroids, if you take any steroids, it actually lowers your immune system. So you are more susceptible to getting sick. So I was on so many medications. I blew up like a balloon. I got teased all the time. My teeth were bad, so that affected, the one thing that I had that I knew I was good at and that I felt confident in was athletics. So I very much held on to the athletic side going through those tribulations. And my doctors told me that I need to stop playing soccer, all the sports, running sports, and that had grass, because I was so allergic to grass. And then what did I do? I played sports on grass. So I'm a screw you, I'm going to do what I want person. But I would tell my younger self, like, just keep pushing forward and, try to love yourself first and foremost. And just because you live in your body for the rest of your life. So take care of your body, start doing more research on medications earlier and help you with that, because being on those medications all the way up until I was 24 really lowered my immune system, which is, I feel like if I wasn't on those earlier, I wouldn't have struggled so much with getting sick and interfering with the softball, my college career so much. I would just say stay focused and don't let anyone put you down.
So I'm a musician myself. I'm a drummer. My daughter is a vocal performance major at Texas Tech. I love music and I love the emotions that it can represent. If they were to do a 30 for 30 or a documentary about Bridgette, what song would you pick as the lead song for your life?
That is a great question. I don't know. I don't want to be cheesy and be like Eye of the Tiger or any of those, but something about tenacity, I get knocked down, but I get up again. I don't know. Something along those lines. Because I feel like that's what happens to me a lot. Getting knocked down, and I had to bring myself out. So maybe that one. Maybe Is it Chumbawamba? Is that what it's called?
I think you're right.
Yeah. Because pissing the night away too.
So last question I ask of all my guests: what for Bridgette remains undone?
Our next big goal for CaZo Dance Theater is to get an agent and potentially travel our shows around the world. We would just want to bring our entertainment not just locally, but to international. So that's the big goal starting right now. We're in our 9th season and we do more story-based full-length dance shows. We do a show called Once Upon a Bachelor That is what it sounds like. It's a full season of The Bachelor told through dance. And it has fairy tale characters as like the contestants. So it's hilarious. And the audience gets to choose who gets final roses and rose ceremonies, who gets, to go on 101, the one-on-ones, who gets proposed to in the end. There's like 50 different outcomes per show. So fully interactive. We actually do a live stream. So if you are listening to this and want to get more information, you can go on our website, CaZoDance.com, and we live stream it and you can actually vote. We do shows like that I would like to travel around. And yeah, so that's like the big picture for CaZo Dance Theater is to travel. So we'll see. That's the undone part for me. That's something I haven't achieved yet, but we have the studio going. It's going really well. So when I originally started CaZo Dance Theater, I wanted to implore dancers as our teachers as well. So when we opened the studio, like all of the members are our teachers. So that's been great to like give jobs to artists as well. Yeah. So that's been complete. We're still growing, but the traveling aspect is what we're trying to get to now.
Yeah, we just opened a magnificent performing arts center here in Lubbock. The Buddy Holly Hall is spectacular, and it's a real gem for our city. And it's brought a lot of like off Broadway and
right.
orchestra and dance and musical theater. It's sad to admit, but before my daughter came into my world, I probably would have just kept driving by it, but she is all about it. And so it's become something I love too. So
good.
Super cool. So you mentioned the website. How else might listeners be able to follow and connect with what you're doing?
You can find us on Facebook. It's CaZo Deco. And then Instagram is CaZo Dance Theater, or you can go on our website, CaZoDance.com.
Well, Bridgette, I certainly appreciate your time. I just started working that music question in recently. So if I had the rights, that would play on the way out. I don't have the rights. So people would just have to navigate to it. Super fun. I really appreciate you taking the time and applaud what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your tenacity.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
A worldwide tour and continued growth for our company, now performing for nearly a decade, remain the objectives left undone for Bridgette and CaZo Dance. Big dreams, to be sure, but a life lived well and with an unflinching rebel spirit has prepared her to take big swings and go all in on the pursuit of what makes her heart sing. Or in Bridgette's case, what makes her mind and body move to the melodies and harmonies of her dreams of making the world a better, more beautiful place through dance. Becoming Undone is a Nitro Hype creative production written and produced by me, Toby Brooks. If you or someone you know has a story of resilience or victory to share for Becoming Undone, please contact me at undonepodcast.com, or you can also sign up for our mailing list to be notified of new episode drops and exclusive Team Undone benefits. Becoming Undone can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Till next time, everybody, keep getting better.